the exciting news today in Chattanooga is that of the bounty hunter yesterday evening at about 6 o'clock, entering a home on Highland Park, or in Highland Park, and the house of the grandmother of a young man, 18-year-old man named Javon Craddock. He was in the house with friends of his, Alton Ford, who also has a smartphone running his camera, and another young man, Demetrius Wynn, 21, who opened the door. Opened the door to what? Well, this is David Toulis, and we're going to open the door on a great topic today, and that is how our police department in Chattanooga would do the right thing in making an arrest or seeking to make an arrest of someone inside of a house. And the reason there is a great story here is because the man who charged in and aimed a semi-automatic pistol at young Javon Craddock lying there on a couch was not a police officer in Chattanooga, though he looked like one, and he did not all, but many of the things that a genuine, authentic, sworn and well-trained police officer in Chattanooga would have done. And so what we're going to do is think just for a second about this amazing story. You can find the details at Nuganomics.com. That's Nuganomics.com, about a home invasion where the man, apparently a bounty hunter, did not get his quarry, as the young men said, well, he's not here. He was looking for another young man. And there was, I would say, the occurrence of a crime in that house here in Chattanooga and Highland Park, and the house belonging to the grandmother of Javon Craddock, who was not there. But there was a search conducted by this private party pretending to be an officer. There was the demand for ID by this man, again pretending to be an officer. There was the not quite dynamic entry through the door, but there was the threat of a dynamic entry. That means a threat of banging the door down with a fist or 4 foot, or perhaps with a battering ram, though there was no ram apparently in evidence. And there is a question mark around the story, though, because here's what Javon Craddock told me this morning. He said, well, when the officer showed up, the pretended officer showed up, apparently the bounty hunter, and the victim of this crime says that the bounty hunter is a man he identifies as Kevin Robertson, apparently a local man who works for either bonding agents or others, who figured in a 2014 home invasion case in the Atlanta area. This man apparently the same. Now, if you look at if you go to Nuganomics.com, you can see. I this morning didn't have time to get everything together, but there's not a video link on there. But you can see the video of this home invasion on our Facebook page. We have a page on the Great Censor FB, and you can see the video there. Two videos made, one by Alton Ford and the other by Javon Craddock yesterday evening. And what happened was a crime. Okay, it was a crime, a private crime. Though I would say the young men in the house thought they were the victims of a public crime, that is to say, a police crime. And if that man in the video had in fact been a police officer, there would have been not just a violation of the police department rules. There is a whole manual. I know the word manual sounds like it will be 30, 40, 50, 60 pages, but the manuals in the police department, as I have copies of them, are anywhere from 2 to maybe 13 or 14 pages. The long ones, for example, the search and seizure manual is a 13-page document. When you print it out, it's 13 pages, and it is probably one of the longer ones. I've not opened all the ones I have, but I have looked at the ones that are, you might say, ones frequently in the news. And this is David Toulis. I'm going to be this evening down at 10 North Shore at the Starbucks at Vision Hospitality. Do join me. Now, I'm a sporty type only because I'm there, right? But we have our gridiron show this evening, starting at 7 o'clock at the Starbucks restaurant at 10 North Shore. 7 o'clock. starting at 7 o'clock, 10 North Shore. I'm being, Sam Jordan's pointing out that, hey, it's not 6. I'll be there at 6:30, probably 6 or 6:30 with our wonderful and amazing, striking, eye-catching magnet Hummer there. But the festivities and the show, the wonderful show here with our local coaches begins at 7 o'clock from 7 to 9. And so we'll be broadcasting this tremendous program from the Starbucks at 10 North Shore. And David Toulis, I'll be there with my law book. Okay. Just, you're going to have to forgive me. I'll be there with my bagel, my coffee, and my laptop doing my law book. However, now listen, save me the trouble. Save me from having to do more law reporting by coming down and joining me. Save me from having to finish my Red Bank Police Manual project, which is a long project, and I'm not done with it, and I want to not finish it. So save me from having to do that by coming to 10 North Shore at 7 tonight. And if you care about sports, well, by all means, tune into that. But if you're not, maybe you and I can chat about your problem, right? David Toulis here, 92.7 FM, 92.7 FM. Wonderful, wonderful press platform. We are not members of the media, and I thank Mayor Andy Burke for the quote in which he told the police officials this last year when he named David Roddy as the chief. He said, whatever David Toulis tells you, don't believe him. He's not a member of the media. And he's right. I'm not a member of the media. I'm a member of the press, because the press is the constitutional body that shines the light of God's grace, and I would say the light of God's law on the doings of men, especially men in high place. Because what we do is, when there's an injustice, we here want to find out about that to correct the wrong, defend the victim, encourage the victim, and obtain equity and justice. So this evening at 7 o'clock, we can talk about that. If you want to join me for a coffee, and maybe just you can eat out. Look, have a date with your wife. And join me, David Toulis. If you care not about sports, if you care not about gridiron and things like that, whatever that means, I'll be there, and I'd love to meet with you. So we're all there together, the whole crew at Nuga Radio 92.7. Also, we're on 95.3 FM HD4. That's high definition channel 4. 95.3 FM HD4. You report, and the world decides. So the story today, I would say, is a great example. And now I have called Rob Simmons twice this morning, the PIO, the Public Information Officer. And as I'm thinking about having dinner tomorrow night, maybe at Olive Branch Mediterranean Deli, I will say that I've emailed him more than once this morning saying, Rob, what do you make of this? Is this your officer? Because that's what when I first got word of this video, this set of videos available at the Great Censor FB Nuga Radio right now for you to look at, I said, Rob, is this one of your guys? Is this an officer? And as I was getting that email off to Rob Simmons, the PIO, I got more information from the parties involved. They all quickly responded to my friend requests, as that's what I do. And the story became clear. Well, this was not a real officer. And there were several irregularities that struck me. I said, well, a well-trained Chattanooga officer is not going to do several of the things that were done in that house, including assault. Okay. Assault is not allowed. Police officers cannot assault you in the search of a house. They also have to have a warrant. And there's a backstory here that makes me weep in a way. And that is how young men such as Corey Javon Craddock and his friends are not vigilant about their rights. And I think they tend to live in fear. And my concern is that they not live in fear. To not live in fear requires two things, by the way. And the number is 800-8949, 800-8949. Call me if you want to. I know you want to hear all the story and you don't want anybody else to call, but because then that person will change the topic. But, save that other person from calling me and changing the topic by you calling me and being on topic if you want to. But you don't have to be. You can do whatever you want. And the number on the David Toulis Show, 800-8949, 800-8949, brought to you by Nuganomics.com. And by the way, the Nuganomics.com, that's Nuga. Yeah, you know the spelling, right? Nuganomics for economics, right? Because I cover economics. Nuganomics.com. That's my platform, the website for the man who matters. And yes, I'll be proud. I'll say I'm proud of it, but it's not popular. It's not popular because it is aimed at just a few people, a handful of people, because only a handful of people really matter in Chattanooga. And the ones who matter read Nuganomics.com. So it's not popular. No pretty girls, no eye candy, no teaser headlines, just straight analysis. Okay. And that's what you're getting from me. David Toulis, the real poop, the real scoop here at Nuganomics.com. And by the way, and I will be at 10 North Shore this evening with a coffee and maybe a bagel, maybe a sandwich at the Starbucks. That is this evening for the Gridiron Show. That's the Gridiron Show. It's a show that starts at 7:00 with Keon Rose and Nick LaFew and others. And Sam will be on the board here in the studio. And it's going to be every Thursday night. Every Thursday night is the Gridiron Gang Show at the Starbucks at 10 North on the North Shore. So the story about let's just kind of dive into the news here. Okay, this is news, and we have it here strongly at on the David Toulis Show at 800-8949, 800-8949. So all right, in a nutshell, what we have is this. There's a lesson about proper copdom. Okay, the proper use of the cop power is what this story is about. Because the intruder, the interloper, the fraud, the fake, the man who pretended to be an officer did not do the right thing, and the PIO has not. If he calls me, I've invited him to call me. I've invited him to come into the studio, and I said, Rob, have David Roddy, the chief, come on the program to talk about what a proper service of warrant would have looked like. Okay, you tell my listener how you would have done it, how it would have gone down had there been a lawful warrant for someone and the officer thought that young person was in this house in Highland Park, the grandma's house with the nice red frame door and the kind of gilded glass there in the middle. Not, middle class, nice piece of property. And the young men inside are just lounging around comfortably. Their furnishings on a very, very well maintained glossy wooden floor. I mean, not a shabby place at all. And so David Roddy, servant of Mayor Andy Burke, right? The servant, the direct object of mayoral control. What would you have done? What would your man or woman with a lawful warrant have done? Now, there's a question, though, about this department that I want to insert here real quick. When, again, this is according to Corey Javon Craddock, when the fake cop came in, just outside on the street were 2 police cars. Was there a coordination? Did these officers know about this? And I have asked this question of Rob Simmons. I said, Rob, what does this mean? Why were there 2 cop cars right in front of the house the moment this cop knocked at the door? This fake cop knocked at the door. Is there cooperation? What's going on here? Okay, this is the question. And Mayor Burke, please answer that question. These are your people. And so if there's something amiss, then the mayor should sniff it out first rather than us. Rather have an investigation if there's something warranting a fresh and aggressive look by internal affairs in the department. So here's what the things were wrong. Okay, use of force was wrong. The fake cop made no mention of warrant, and he had made no mention that what I would call a statement of authority. And then he also did something that no officer would do: demand IDs of everybody in the room. There's no way a real officer would have done that. A real officer would never have done that because he has no authority to ask the ID of everybody in the room. He simply does not have that authority. Now, if you say, man, that's a mouthful, David Toulis. Well, are you sure? Well, you report and the world decides, right? You report and the world decides. But there is a statute that I make reference to in my story today at Nuganomics.com, the story that you need to read today. And it is on the point of who must produce or give an ID. It's in Title 7 of the Tennessee Code, 73505, and it refers to failure to produce identification, arrest, release, and bond. Now, you have to give an ID or produce. There are two verbs here. There are two operative verbs: give or produce an ID when you're being arrested. Okay, so that if you're not under arrest, there's no necessity for you to give or produce an ID. So the statute says when any police officer, etc., authorized to enforce ordinances, laws, or regulations, asks the violator for identification for the purpose of issuing a citation or civil warrant to that person, comma, the failure to produce or give such identification shall be grounds for the violator to be arrested by an officer authorized to make arrest pursuant to Title 40, Chapter 7. And then if you're arrestable, of course, the next sentence, it goes on to describe the lovely afternoon that you're going to have. Arrested, transported to the police station or jail, booked, photographed, and fingerprinted for identification purposes, and thereafter shall be served with a citation or civil warrant and released from custody. Now, get this, without being required to post a bond. So if you're being told you got to post a bond, someone's lying to you. Okay, if someone's lying to you, you don't have to produce a bond in this protocol. So that's if you're brought in there. So now there may be more to this that I haven't read, but that is cited in my story today. And the question is, who must give or produce an ID? Well, the young men in this room were not the man that Kevin Robertson, if that's his name, was looking for. They were not the man he was looking for. And notice what he did, though. He did act like a lot of cops, the way they run things, demand IDs from everybody, just promiscuously demand an ID. And you'll see there is some profanity in this story, and you'll have to forgive me. I did bleep it out. The F-bomb is in there multiple times. And city employees who are policemen often use profanity and obscenities. From what I've heard, this man did it so much that clearly he could not have been a regular officer. Okay, he just I'm thinking of the Hanson Melvin case and the Walking While Black case, which is going to trial in civil court in November. There's an M word with an F in it used by the officer in a Walking While Black arrest of Hanson Melvin. So this man in this story has so many of these violent bits of language that there's no way he could have been a real officer. So now about the IDs, he asked everybody for an ID, and Corey Javon Craddock gave his, and I think Alton Ford, who's running his phone as well, gave his too. And the third young man, I think that the video cuts off. But what happens then, past the video cutting off at about 2 minutes, is that there's a search. This man, pretending again to be a cop, makes a search. Now, there is not particularity in this event. He's just searching for somebody or something, and that can only be done under a warrant. Okay, there has to be a warrant. What I think is lamentable is that these young men did not demand to see the warrant. They did not demand to see the warrant. Number one. Number two, they let this pretended officer in, and they submitted. Number three, they submitted to the demand for IDs, which they should not have done. That's number three. And number four, they did not make words against the assault that was committed upon. They are victims of an assault. The video shows the automatic being aimed at Corey Javon Craddock, who makes one of the videos. He's the man with whom I spoke this morning. And that is assault. Assault is the threat of violence, of immediate violence, by some weapon or other. So assault is not the actual hitting. Assault and battery go together often. When someone reaches his arm back and slugs you in the nose, that's a two-part act. The first part is the reaching back of the arm and the threat, right? The moment that you feel that he's about to hit you and the fear that you sense in your breast or your heart, that's assault. The fact that you sense that you're going to be pummeled, okay? And then the striking of his knuckles on your very tender cheek, just under your left eye. That is the battery. So assault and battery often go together, but aiming a weapon at someone is assault. And this is David Toulis. Join me tonight for the amazing and wonderful Gridiron Gang show at 10 North Shore. 10 North Shore. I want to be there at 7 o'clock, and people will be talking sports. If you want to talk to me about something else, that's fine. I don't know much about sports, but I love talking about anything. Join me. I'll be there for a couple hours tonight at 10 North Shore at the Starbucks at the Vision Hospitality Hotel on the North Shore. Join me.
3, 2, 1.
Chattanooga Radio. Digital FM 95.3 HD4. 92.7 FM's news now.
Ottawa High School placed on lockdown after what SROs are calling a social media threat. This comes just one day after Dallas Bay was shut down for a bomb threat. Ottawa High's lockdown was lifted. Students were dismissed at the normal time. Reports say the threat came from a student at the school in the Hamilton